Hello and welcome, my beautiful, powerful listeners. Are you ready for another incredible Startup Stories podcast where the everyday woman is held, heard, and served to stay grounded and growing in her self and business expansion? All right, so I read that. I did that off memory instead of reading my script because I forgot to pull up my script, which is no problem. It's no big deal because I'm just an everyday woman doing an everyday thing. And
Yes.
today I've got Jennifer Tsay with me.
Mhm.
And you guys, I'm just like, yet again, in awe and appreciation of the beautiful women who join me. So, Jennifer, thank you for spending time in your day and maybe even starting your day in your time zone with the Startup Stories podcast today. I just gonna have such a beautiful conversation with you based on the business that you've developed, which is such a cool and unique model. So, you guys, Jennifer has designed and scaled a company called Shoott. And basically, what you do and let's see if I interpreted the website
Mhm.
properly, is you've set up what appears to be like a match service for photographers and clients to get
Mhm.
together in a city and get stunning photos. And these are like, from the pictures that I saw, and you probably did pick the best of the best, right? For
Of
marketing,
course.
right?
Of course.
But like that's talent. It's talent. And so,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you've been able to reduce overhead and make it very cost effective and
Mhm.
now, reach so many different cities. And this started from your own what desire and background from the finance industry to grow and become, yeah, like you guys, investment banking, strategic finance, project management, documentary filmmaking. Okay, here we're bringing in the creative side in the
Yes.
portfolio, right?
Yes.
And now you have all these incredible credentials, like being a Forbes Next 100 entrepreneur, a Brit Plus Co 30 AAPI founder. I don't know what that is. Please tell us. Please tell us these other things. Just come on and in your own words, share a bit about where you are and where
Mhm.
you were on the way here.
Yeah. So, where I am today, it is year 7 of me running Shoot with two T's.
Mhm.
And I think you described it really well. We are
Mhm.
a professional platform that matches really talented, vetted local photographers in your community with people looking to get professional photos taken to commemorate all of their milestones, both great and small. So, where we are today, we're in 60 cities across the US. We
Amazing.
support over 750 photographers with supplemental income. That's something we're really proud of.
Mhm.
And we have a 4.9 star rating on Google with over
Mhm.
2,500 reviews and
Mhm.
counting. And so we're doing that all on a small team of about 12 full time people with a couple part time people doing customer service for us. And we're really proud of the business that we built. We really value, because many of us started as creatives or have a lot of background as being creatives. We know how hard the gig economy is for
Mhm.
people like photographers. And we just wanted to build a platform that would take into account all of the things that are hard about being a gig worker and try to solve for some of them. And that's where my business background comes in. So,
Mhm.
it took a lot of time to figure out each kind of puzzle piece to make this work because it's a lot of logistics.
Mhm.
And so, starting from or coming from a background in finance and project management that really set the groundwork in this very corporate environment for all the skills I needed to
Mhm.
figure out how to build something. I didn't know I could be an entrepreneur and a builder. I didn't
Mhm.
think that would be in my future because I
Mhm.
I kind of always found comfort in working for people,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, that's your responsibility. And like, I don't know, like, I
Right.
don't know how to do that. And
Right.
so, but then when this opportunity came up for me and I had the idea, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Right.
I was like, no, somebody else is more qualified. But then as we started it, it was like, oh no, I'm the only person who has both like the combination of the skills and the language and the context from all those years of experience. Because I didn't start Shoott until I was 38.
Mm.
Um, that I just found suddenly I could synthesize all of these things to run a business. And then the rest I didn't know I could figure out along the way. So that's kind of an overview of how I ended up where I ended up.
What was your creative area while you were working in corporate?
That's a great question. I felt like I didn't really have one because
Okay.
in corporate, it's very much like you figure out what they want, you figure out how they want it, and it's a lot of rinse and repeat. It's
Hmm.
not often that the projects really change fundamentally in nature. It's like they know what you can do, and then you just keep doing it. So, you know, I remember feeling like, okay, I can do this, but this is so boring. And then like it just felt like I was wasting away at work. And so I was kind of wrestling with that for a
Yeah.
good number of years in the beginning. And then I was like, there has to be something more than this. So I quit.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I in a way, like
Yeah.
I did corporate work for I would say about 5 years. And then I quit and was like, let me just, I had saved some money. I'm like, let me just kind of experiment around with a couple things. So
Mhm.
I found people who wanted to produce a documentary. And
Yeah.
so I jumped on as one of the producers, even though I never had experience doing it.
Yeah.
I helped plan weddings, even though I hadn't had my own. Like it was,
Oh, uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
took writing classes, I took dance class, I took acting class.
Okay.
And then I was an actor for about 10 years and still am sometimes. So like
Mm.
I'm kind of always trying to experience something that I haven't experienced before, like professionally,
Yeah.
just to see what it's like and to learn from it
Hmm.
and to learn, about something new and then also learn about myself in the process.
Yeah.
So that's always been very important to me.
Yeah. That's beautiful because now that you can, like you just beautifully said, explore and see what's clicking and
Mm.
what's not. So did somebody come to you with the photography idea and then you were like the structure that could help support
Yeah,
its inception?
that's a great idea. Great question. So, what happened was I had reconnected with a startup entrepreneur that I had worked for in my 20s. So I
Ah,
worked for him while he was one of my day jobs while I was an actor. So I worked for him for a few years and we had a great working dynamic. Um, but then he kind of shuttered all his startups because he moved his family over to another country. So
mhm,
that made me really sad at the time. And
mhm,
and then when it came to starting Shoott, I reconnected with him, and it was about 10 years later. And I at the time was like, hey, I may need you as a reference, and if you know of a
mhm,
startup that needs somebody with my skill set, please let me know. And he
mhm.
emailed me back like 20 minutes later and he was like, I totally forgot that you were here. He was like, but this is so weird. I'm in town right now and I want to work on something new. Let's get together. So we got
Mm.
together. I talked about my background as an artist and
Yeah.
like some of the things we really struggled with. And we came up with the idea because, we're like, oh, if we can aggregate demand for creatives all in one place,
Mhm,
that creates volume. You always,
mhm.
as an artist, you're always looking for an audience, right?
Yeah.
Or a client. And
Yeah.
so we were like, is there a way to aggregate clients? And we couldn't quite figure out how to do that for acting, which is what I was doing. But we were like, we could do this
Mhm.
for photographers. So that's kind of what birthed Shoott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to to take a chance and leave your job because it's not fulfilling,
Hmm.
to give yourself safety to explore in creativity, and then
Hmm.
and I'm playing this back for the listeners to pursue your own opportunities, right? So we're not
Hmm.
sitting around waiting for things to come to us. It's not Christmas. It's
Hmm.
like it's active participation and pursuit to find opportunities. And then timing comes into play because you've been preparing yourself.
Hmm.
So you have this meeting with him, you guys decide on what your niche is going to be.
Hmm.
You start reaching out to like photographers. What do you remember what some of those early conversations were with the pitch to some photographers?
Yeah, so I think it's always really tricky to market our business for photographers because when we say that our hook for clients is that it's a free photo shoot,
Hmm.
the immediate response is a lot of fear and suspicion.
Hmm.
And, we knew that that would happen. So we decided to craft this minimum guarantee payment that if they showed up, no matter what the client ultimately paid, they would make at least $100 per photography hour. That was something that we committed to because it meant that we had to really hold ourselves accountable to hiring the best photographers. And then, so there was that, but then on top of that we offer a commission structure where they make the more like the greater of the minimum guarantee or the commission, and like 99% of the time it's going to be the commission.
Hmm.
So our photographers make on average currently like between 166 and like 199 per
Hmm.
photography hour, which is something we are super proud of.
Yeah.
And but it, how do you tell somebody this very quickly in the beginning? And so I think we had to really it was helpful because we were there in person, so they could tell that we were real people that were sincere about
Hmm.
what we were doing.
Hmm.
And we offered resources in the beginning, like we would have training sessions. They gave a lot of feedback so they could feel part of the process.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was when we started, we got things like death threats and things like that.
My
So
God.
yeah, people, because like people, anything that's very disruptive, understandably so, like people get very upset. So we have to be very
Hmm.
sensitive around it. And so, from the beginning, we've always been very attuned to and, sensitive towards the concerns of the photographers. Like,
Hmm.
the whole point has been to support the photographer life. So,
Yeah.
we've had to really speak to that.
And are you or that friend a photographer or,
No, no, no,
right?
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neither of us are. So we had to
Yeah.
learn how the industry works from scratch, like the
Uh-huh.
mechanics of all the technicals
Uh-huh.
from scratch. And we had to learn the pain point, like that how we couldn't we actually did have to speak to a lot of people
Yeah.
to hear about what frustrated them, what didn't work for them. Where there's all different types of photographers, like a lot of them hate doing all the marketing. Like they
Mhm.
love the photography, they love the
Mhm.
editing, they love the artistry of it. But then I think people realize when you try to make a living as an artist, there's a
Mhm.
lot of pesky business stuff you have to do in order to do your art. Right. And so we were like, oh, yeah, what if we took away some of that for you?
Yeah.
Like when you're an actor, like you start getting that when you have an agent, basically,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But before that, you have to go to all the castings, you have to show up and you have to go to equity auditions, you have to try to cobble it together yourself or find ways to meet people. And so, and that's there's so much emotional and physical labor that goes into that. So
Mhm.
we're like, yeah, can we create a business model that does that? So all they have to do is show up and photograph. That's it. They can just do
Mhm.
what they love. And we
Mhm.
take care of advertising and business analysis and marketing and,
Right.
customer service, which
Mhm.
is a huge one. Like you don't
Mhm.
ever have to deal with the complaints of other people. We will handle that completely for you.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's we're meant to really enhance in the most efficient way possible the lives of photographers.
The word agent is, exactly what I was thinking, because you've developed this entire ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
that equally takes care of the photographer and gives the client a five-star luxury experience at an affordable kind of everyday rate. So you're closing a gap between
Yeah.
something that might have been inaccessible before. And I love that neither of you were in that industry, but could fill a need in it. And I
Mm-hmm.
lay that out because I want people to like think bigger than whatever thing they have their sight set on. There could be more that we're not seeing if we're too focused, right, in what we think our purpose is, and there's opportunities everywhere. And so then you start getting a few photographers on board, and then momentum starts to happen, and now moving into scaling and growing a team and all these things. So what was that experience like for you in, new exposures to entrepreneurship, and where were you feeling in your comfort zone and where were you feeling a bit stretched?
Yeah. So I I think I recommend if anyone wants to do entrepreneurship, they really understand who they are and
Mhm.
where their strengths are and where their areas of opportunity are, meaning their weaknesses. So, and for me, I've always known I'm like, okay, in the very beginning stages, I'm great. Like I can do a ton of work. I understand how to organize things inherently. I understand how to prioritize things. I know, for example, like we have to get Craigslist ads up for photographers, and then we have to have a schedule for them. Then we have to figure out a really clear invoicing system for them. So,
Mhm.
I'm building, I'm building. And at some point in time, you have to build something that isn't small business sized as much as it is thinking for scale,
Mhm.
meaning you need to have platforms, you need to
Mhm.
develop some automations, and you have to do things. And I knew what I needed built, but there was a point where I knew that it was hard because I needed someone to figure out how to build it.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, hey, there's a platform that has to, and I can tell you what it needs to look like and how it
Yeah.
needs to function and what it needs to do, but I'm not the person who's always great at being like, what's the solution for this?
Yes.
um what's the solution for my solution? And
Yeah.
so that actually led me to, I'm like, I need other people on the team that compliment me there. And the one person was, I was like, oh my god, the only person that I know that could do this is my best friend from my freshman year of college. She just could, she always filled that piece of our relationship when we
Uh-huh.
worked on projects together.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but she's like a single mom of three. I just don't know if she has the time to work on a startup, but I'm going to ask anyway. So I got on the phone with her and she was like, oh, I've like never, I was like, can you be my COO? And she was like, I have never done this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yeah, but I think you can do it. And then she was like, do you offer health insurance? And I'm like, yes, I do now. And then she was like, then I'm in. And so it was such a funny conversation because I was so shocked that she, in retrospect, I'm not shocked knowing her,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it was like, if you ever met anyone that you worked really well with, like you kind of had a natural mind meld without there being conflict, your egos don't conflict, all those things. She was that for me. And so it was like this amazing thing that we could work together.
Mhm.
Because even when we were 18, we were like, oh my God, it'd be so fun to work together, wouldn't it?
Right.
Not thinking that was ever possible, but that's what ended up happening. And to this day, so she's still my other co-founder on a functional day-to-day basis, and we handle everything together. And so our relationship was split that way. So she was my first, like what I would call like number one hire
Mhm.
in terms of being able to scale.
Mhm.
I think they call that like employee number one. And then from there, like she could help really get like figure out how our tech team move
Yeah.
forward, how to figure out the prioritization of that, what
Yeah.
direction they needed, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Because I can, again, that's not my skill set.
Yeah.
But she's so good at learning. Like you can put any platform in front of her and she'll
Mhm.
learn it within like 10 minutes. And then like everything that
Wow.
people take
Wow.
months to build, she can
Yeah.
build in a day. Like it's this
Wow.
crazy thing that her brain can do. And
Mhm.
it's actually, we laugh about it. It's because she was like, it's because I was so bad at so many things that my brain had to figure out, like, she was like, I would get jobs I didn't deserve. And then I had to figure out how to actually be good at the job because I didn't want to lose it. And I was like, that's really funny because a lot of people just don't ever quite learn how to do that. They just lie
Yeah.
to get the job and then they can't figure out how to make it work. But
Yeah.
she, out of desperation, figured out
Yeah.
that skill. And that's a very special thing.
That's uh, um, a couple of different things that she sounds like she'd be a great interview as well, by the way.
Yes,
And her,
absolutely.
but there's a willingness here, a willingness in all of you, but also, Jennifer, I recognize in you a great sense of visionary leadership that you know what you can do and you know what you can't do. And you're not going to muddle around in the things that you can't do
Mm-hmm.
to try and prove or try and, make it work anyway. You're
Mm-hmm.
taking highly proactive, intentional, solution-based action to fill that need so
Mm-hmm.
that you can stay in, that old catchphrase, zone of genius and be complimented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you give opportunity to somebody else and get to elevate up out of there. And so, for example, for me, I have just like a small little coaching business and I use Wix, but I understand that if I were to implement HubSpot or any of those other very large CRMs,
Mm-hmm.
anytime I've worked in them, they're like learning a different planet to
Yes.
me. Like they're
Hmm.
so deep, they're so intricate, everything weaves together, and it would take years to try and build it out to
Hmm.
something where you find somebody proficient and then you save time and improve customer service and get up and running, and then created another opportunity for her. And
Hmm.
now this like 10 plus year long dream gets to come true, and all kinds of other things get to happen as a result of it. And I really encourage everybody to go to their website, which is shoott.com with two T's, and take a look at how it's stylized and laid out, and now the impact that you're having. So I just want to bring back 60 cities, 750 photographers, and now you have a giving back program as
Hmm.
well that
Hmm.
you're doing out of that. So there's like a very holistic feel to this where everyone's taken care of, and then the company is doing good in its local communities too.
Hmm.
When and where did you guys, come up with this social element of it?
Yeah. So the social element of it is something that like I had to learn from scratch. So when we talk about like things I know, things I don't know, when I did start Shoot, I did not know how to deal with social media. It was just like I just like had not touched it before. So I had to learn the platforms from scratch. And that sucked, but I could still do it if that makes sense. Like
Yes,
I just like,
yes,
I'm like, okay, every day if I force myself to be on the platforms for like an hour or two, like, can I get somewhere? And the answer is yes, because
yeah,
it's like, it's like it's not learning an entirely new platform per se, the way
mhm,
that you're like HubSpot. It is, something that if you just immerse yourself in, you can get the language of it and just
right,
start. It's like a little more like pig Latin versus like,
right,
like learning like Latin, which is different.
yeah,
So yeah. And what's nice about that is like, so I drove a lot of the socials in the beginning.
mhm,
And that was just me experimenting and Googling to be like, what should I do? Like, what should I post? How do I want it to look? All of those things. And so then we realized, like, oh, our main demographic are at the time like millennial Gen Z moms. It's women
mhm.
who really want to capture and commemorate the memories of their lives. So that starts with like when you start dating seriously, you adopt a dog, when you start developing like, any semblance of a sense of family or like self. Like
Mhm.
we've had people who take photos when they have a breakup or when they're like they want to document their cancer journey. So any we welcome all of that. And and then also the customary like holiday cards. People love booking us for holiday cards.
Mhm.
So and we're like, if knowing that a lot of these kind of millennial moms are in our target demographic, how do we reach them locally? How do we be more personable? How do we,
Mhm.
because like we're actually hiring local photographers. So how do we be a pathway that these local photographers can get local clients? And
Yeah,
so that led us to being like, hey, how do we reach people in communities to offer things like fundraisers? We're like, oh, our sessions can be structured in a way where we can give back to share with your local community. Or please, we'd send personal emails to people, share about your experience in your local Facebook group, in a next door group,
mhm.
something like that, where you can, if you're comfortable, if you can personally vouch for us, that would mean the world to us. And people responded. And that was
Right.
really nice. There were some posts that we had where people just organically, there was a single mom who shared she was running late and she felt really uncomfortable, or like she was stressed out and she was like, I don't know what this photo shoot will be. And the photographer totally took care of her the whole time
Mhm.
and made her and her daughter feel seen, and they felt comfortable in front of the camera, all of that stuff. And she posted it in this mom's group in San Francisco that we weren't even aware of. And I think we got somewhere like a few hundred bookings from it because
Wow.
people were so taken with her story and it was so authentic. Like we didn't even know.
Yeah.
So, I think like aim whatever you're doing, like aim to do the best job you can and try to connect with people, ask people to share about you. And most people are so happy to do that if you've done a great job with what you do. That like people are kinder, are more unexpectedly kind,
Mhm.
than than you expect.
And you
Yeah.
expect, well,
Yeah.
I mean, a photography shoot is a very precious memory
Hmm.
documented, and can be a very beautiful experience where you get to be treated in a bit of a VIP or like rock
Hmm.
star type of way. And that woman's experience of feeling uncomfortable and unsure, and then being held and
Hmm.
nurtured and, kind of drawn out to get these stunning photos is a very touching experience, a very personal experience. And you can tell when somebody's doing a service because they love it
Hmm.
versus they just want to get paid for it. And
Yeah.
if Shoot's building that kind of culture, which you definitely are, it adds some of those additional benefits to the service that somebody's not expecting. So
Hmm.
it creates like a bond of loyalty and of
Yeah.
appreciation
Yeah.
between the two entities. And that is such a great way to build a company's client retention, great reviews,
Hmm.
all those intrinsical added values that somebody feels really appreciated as a client and well looked after. And that's also a very strategic move, right?
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
terms of trying to dig into local communities and make it more tangible for them, that you're not just some Amazon of photographers
Yeah.
sending them to their cities, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
do you have like an intake process now for photographers who would want to get registered with Shoot?
Yeah, we have a very rigorous one. So
Mhm.
we always knew that like we wanted to create a business that was like a win-win-win between the clients, the photographers, and Shoot. So in order to do that, we had to hold the highest standards to ourselves
Mhm.
and to our photographers to make sure that because clients are booking us and trusting us based on who we're recommending to them. So our process, you can apply online at shoot.com. There's a section in our careers for photographers. We are very clear about our equipment requirements. So that's like the first thing.
Mhm.
Like, do you have professional grade equipment? And then on top of that, we ask for their portfolio. So they submit their portfolio. We look at their equipment to see whether what they would be photographing would be able to be like frankly like if a family loves it and wants to blow it up to like a huge size, like whether it
Right.
would retain the quality, it's super important.
Yeah.
And then we look at their portfolio. If they pass that, then we invite them for an interview. If we invite them for an interview, it's a video interview, and then if they pass that, we have a test shoot, like a mini test shoot that
Mhm.
simulates what our regular shoots are like. It's a 10
Mhm.
minute kind of exercise.
Mhm.
We show them what our sample galleries look like. We're like, hey, people are booking us based on this kind of
Standard.
aesthetic. Can you do something that's in this family? Can be a variation on a theme, but what can you do in 10 minutes? And then, we come back, we look at that. And then we have other steps too if they pass that. So we
Mhm.
have an onboarding quiz, we have policies, we have videos that they watch, that we have background check is really important because
Mhm.
there's a lot of kids being photographed and we
Yeah.
want everyone to feel really, really comfortable that everyone's super vetted. So we do that and then we onboard them. So it is this like multi-step thing to get somebody on our team.
Mhm.
And we
And
only
it's
accept, I think, like 2% of applicants.
well,
Yeah.
integrity throughout all of that, right? That's
Hmm.
what I'm hearing. A lot of integrity and of brand protection. That if you're going to come and join us, we
Hmm.
hold a very high standard in what we do, and it's excellence.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this started off, a few photographers grew. Now, for the
Mhm.
size and scale you are, what do you think is next?
Yeah, I think we hit profitability 2 years ago, which was a huge deal for us because it meant that our hypothesis of creating this ecosystem of running something with integrity that benefits all parties, that could be a profitable business.
Mhm.
That was it was a major like win for us personally. And so when we're like, what do we do next? The world is a little bit of our oyster, so a little bit depends.
Mhm.
We definitely want to keep improving on what we've built.
Mhm.
We want to keep expanding. So, like, if we can add more cities, if we can expand internationally, we'd love to do that. But again, like, it's at this place where, like, what is the best move where we can not like we can grow but not sacrifice any sense of like quality of
Mhm.
service.
Mhm.
Because once you start going to other countries, there's all these considerations of like, I need a legal team there, I need accounting there, I need
Mhm.
to make sure, so it's vetting all that, and then I need a customer service team that
Mhm.
speaks that particular language. So there's all of these considerations that we have to take into account. And so we also consider like, hey, do we want to like expand on the services we offer? How do we provide more value so that
Mhm.
people we can be more of a one-stop shop? Like, do we want to do that for clients? Do we want to do that for photographers? So we're
Mhm.
kind of wrestling through all of this. It's also a little bit of a challenging and interesting year, like economically. So we're
Mhm.
trying to just see kind of
Mhm.
where that goes and kind of
Yeah.
ride that wave.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to figure out, really the overall goal is to figure out how to become the brand that's top of mind when people are thinking of booking a professional photographer for their
Mhm.
personal lives. We
Mhm.
want that. um we want to be our tagline, which is look good, feel good, do good. We want
Yeah.
people to recognize and understand that our brand really represents that,
Mhm.
however we do that.
However you do that, well, it's like this constant, curious, creative look at what you're doing, what's
Mhm.
working, what and feeding that, and then again, not kind of looking down at what is, but where you can go with it
Mhm.
in a
Yes.
broader perspective,
Mhm.
which is great because it keeps the the vision, open,
Mhm.
right? That it
Absolutely.
that it's constantly evolving. Jennifer, do you know if anybody else has tried copying this model? Have you started like some competitors?
Nobody has tried to do the free photo shoot up front.
Uh-huh.
That's so risky to do
Mhm.
because you need enough volume and you need to be
Yeah.
good at the marketing to make that balance. So, the first few years were really risky with that and figuring out and then you have to figure out how to structure your business. So you
Mhm.
make the offer, but you make sure that you have like the right clients. Because in the beginning, for example,
Mm.
we used to have anyone could book it. And then we didn't have any sort of checks and balances. And then what happened, because we offered a free service, is that 50% of clients would not show up.
Mhm.
And that was devastating for the photographers.
Yeah.
So you quickly realize, okay, we have to make sure there's some people have quote some skin in the game. So
Yeah.
we have this like $75 pre-authorization that
Mhm.
happens when you book. So we take your credit card, we make sure you even have that money in your account to spend on it, and then we return it back to you. Like it's an instantaneous thing.
Mhm.
And once we had that, a lot of that went away. So
Yeah.
it's figuring out like what solutions are out there so you could protect the people on your team, your
Mhm.
photographers, and then make sure you're serving the right clients.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what have you learned about yourself and how have you seen yourself grow and change from quitting corporate to,
Mm-hmm.
exploring creative and now becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think I didn't understand before the how expansive it is to be creative at your job and what that would look like. I think when a lot of people think of a creative job, they think like, oh, I'm going to be a filmmaker or I'm going to be a writer. Like you think in a very literal way.
Mhm.
But to me, creativity is taking all of the knowledge that you have and being able to process that in all these different ways to create new solutions,
Mhm.
right? Like that's all music is. You have a
Yeah.
limited amount of notes and you have like kind of different rhythm patterns, but it's not like you have an unlimited amount. Like there's only a few keys, like,
Right.
time signatures. So like to a certain
Yeah.
degree, like your creativity has to be within a certain amount of bounds. So being an entrepreneur is like having boundaries and then figuring out within those boundaries what kind of things can I create that make the most sense. And and when you develop a skill for that, it is so much fun,
Mhm.
and work becomes a place where your brain and your mind like naturally kind of craft solutions um, that help yourself, other people. You really drive things forward in a way where you're not just like my main complaint from doing corporate was I was doing work that either didn't matter, like
Yeah.
went in a binder, like,
Yeah.
it did like
Yeah.
it didn't, I would just do things and I never feel that way because literally everything I do matters. And that's really nice,
Mhm.
because I don't feel hopeless at work.
Mhm.
And so I learned so much about what that looks like for me, what I'm naturally kind of like, like where my impulses are,
Mhm.
and where my impulses are correct, and then also where my impulses are not as great.
Right, right.
Like I'm not the best. I have not historically been the best at hiring. That's
Mhm.
just not like I want to give everybody a chance.
Right.
And like it's like when you're bad at dating, like you want to give it, you're like, no, no, no.
One more
I'm like,
frog. Yeah.
yeah, like no, 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 you got to be a little more discerning. And I'm like,
Uh,
okay.
uh,
Because I would feel guilty about doing
yeah,
things like that. So you
yeah.
kind of have to know, like, where do your personal kind of isms come in? And you're like, how do I, no, 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 how can I be more purposeful about being better? And it's so nice to work in a job, and to create a life for yourself where, I'm very growth mindset oriented, and
Yeah,
where I can see that come into play.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about these awards that the company has
Oh,
received, right? Like,
yeah.
brag a little for us.
Oh my goodness.
What are they? How did you get nominated, or were you surprised?
Yeah, no. So my coworker nominated me for the Forbes Next 1000, which,
Mhm.
I don't know if they still do it, but it's because by the time we realized that awards exist, because so I started Shoot when I was 38, and by the
Yeah.
time I realized that awards existed, I was above 40.
Okay.
So a lot of those things are age based.
Yeah, they
So
are.
like if you're under 30 and under 40, you could try for the Forbes 30 under 30 or 40 under
Yeah.
40, and understand there's actually a lot. It's not just 30 people, it's 30 people per category. So it's a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you should just shoot for the stars. You can actually nominate yourself or have other people nominate you.
Mhm.
And what's nice about the Forbes ones are it's free to nominate. Some of the
Yeah.
other ones are paid.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to pay for that because we just didn't have the disposable income
Fair. Yeah.
as a company to do that. So we never did any of the paid ones, which is why I have, Forbes Next 1000, which, that one exists to honor, I think, up and coming small business
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. So that was something, we're definitely still a small business, even
Mhm.
though, we've hit 10 million of revenue annually, but like we only have 12 people. So we're by
Mhm.
definition a small business.
Yeah.
And then, the Brit and Co 30 AAPI founders you should know, that was released, every AAPI month, which is May, which is actually this month,
Mhm.
is, they look at founders that they know of, that they love the business, and they share about them, which is, such an honor, because it's just, I was definitely not expecting that. And then we also recently got the Entreprenista 100 award,
Mhm.
my co-founder Jen and I, and that was really nice too. That was a self-nomination thing,
Mhm.
and it's a really great community, of entrepreneurial women that really are looking for community, looking for resources, looking to share, looking
Yeah.
to really continue building and growing. It's a really special community. I would say, like, if you are thinking about joining the entrepreneurial, journey, it's good to be in community,
Yeah.
because when you do the journey is very lonely. It feels like you're solving a lot of stuff by yourself,
Mhm.
but so many other people are on that same path.
Yeah.
And when you know that, it makes your experience less alienating and also less confusing to know that certain things are actually really normal. Like for me,
Mhm.
it's actually apparently really hard to hire well.
Mhm.
I think I was watching a podcast yesterday, Diary of a CEO, with Emma Greed, who is the CEO or founder of, Good American. And she was saying how, like, that's it for her job. It's like 25% of her time,
Mhm.
at least. And then
Wow.
I talked with another, somebody who runs like a recruiting type of staffing agency, and she was like, for every 1,500 applicants, I only accept 2 to 3 people.
Wow.
I was like, oh, those odds are terrible. So, like, if you are struggling with that, I don't want you to be hard on yourself. It is
Yeah.
that hard.
It is
People,
that hard.
people, they unintentionally misrepresent themselves. Like,
Mhm.
your vision for things doesn't match other people's, and you only figure that out when they're on the job. Like, it's really hard to get
Mhm.
right. So if you're
Mhm.
struggling with that, like, staffing is, when you get it right, it really boosts your company forward. But if it takes you a long time to get it right,
Yeah.
that is normal. So
Yeah.
it's things like that. So that's,
Yeah.
all of the community based things will help you develop your knowledge, and yeah, and your sense of intuition.
Well, yeah, that community, that place to be held and heard
Hmm.
and validated for what you're going through, and
Hmm.
then just the help in solving problems, right? So
Hmm.
ways
Hmm.
that we learn off of each other's mistakes or lessons in order
Hmm.
to save a bit of time. And especially, yeah, Jennifer, you're speaking my language in terms of um, not going at it alone because it's so isolating and it's easy to get run down and discouraged
Hmm.
if you're the
Hmm.
only one. If you're not with other people, then everything's just heavier and you tend to make it bigger than it
Hmm.
necessarily needs to be.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your candor because I want the listeners to hear self-nominate, right? It's not
Yeah.
some mystery where a wishing star landed in the lap, boom, you get an award. Like go out there and create your own opportunities, be an active participant and pursue
Yeah.
these things, get some credentials and some exposure behind you, and really own the mission that you say you're on, by doing the work to go along with it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I would say like you have to advocate for yourself
Yeah,
because no one else is going to really do that for you and you're not waiting to be noticed and picked. You
right.
have to like you really have to get in people's faces and be like, "Hey, I've done this." And a
Mhm.
lot of people are like, "Wow, that's so cool."
Mhm.
But don't sit around waiting to be
Yeah,
noticed. Like if you're
yeah,
doing great things, you have to be your greatest brand ambassador.
yes, beautiful. That's a strong slice of wisdom to kind of bring us through. And Jennifer did something really cool. I've never had a coupon in my business name that wasn't mine.
Oh.
I love that. Book
Yeah,
with code POWERFUL for 15% off when you set 10 photos or more at shoot.com. So we'll put all that in the show notes,
amazing.
as well as links to Jennifer's socials and all of that. But I really, really love the business model. I love
Thank
your
you.
level of comfort and like conviction in who you are now,
Hmm.
right? Like looking
Yeah.
back at who you were in
Hmm.
corporate, you've created an entire new reality for yourself.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's incredible. And now
Yeah.
the world is your oyster because now you know you have evidence and self-trust to
Hmm.
continue to make moves and lead yourself and your company forward.
Yeah.
Maybe start some other businesses. You just have the
Yes.
one so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Would
Yeah.
love to. Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing your journey and your insights with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so lovely.
Awesome.